All right, folks, it's another week, another Skippers Unscripted. And what are we talking about today? Remember, last week I said we'd probably talk about time in many different ways. We're going to talk about time, and we're going to talk this week about the emotional time tax that leaders sometimes have to pay. Okay, so what do I mean by the emotional time tax? We've talked about if you're not moving the mission forward, if you're not spending time specifically wisely, you are going to be squandering time. And as we mentioned, time is not replaceable. Once you spend it, it's gone. So, it's not even the time value of money. It's just opportunity cost, because once the time is expired, you're done. So, okay, what do you got to watch out for? I'm going to talk about the time tax. So what do I mean by the time tax? In essence, I'll use the analogy or the metaphor of, there's people in your life, both personal and professional, and they like to weaponize emotions with you. Okay? And I like to describe these people as they're basically energy vampires. They suck your time and your focus, and it sows confusion. So what happens is you don't know what to do. You get fearful, you get consumed by it. They actually bring you into their energetic level. I'll say, so one of the folks I work with, so Dr. Susie Siegel, she often talks about, keeping your energy correct. And this is a prime example of that. So in essence, these people, now I'm not going to say they sit back with a villain's idea of I'm going to destroy this person. It's not really that. That's not really what I'm talking about. These are people that can't get their act together, and they're so used to using emotion to get what they want. Okay, so in order to meet their ends and their goals. Now, we could get into a lot of debate of what that is, but that becomes emotional leverage. So they tend to talk in circles. They're focused on, what are people feeling and thinking and all of these things. So it's very much it pulls you out of the getting things done. I like to say it's a focus on excuses versus a focus on results. And I think when you move away from focusing on results and you allow people to pull you into the emotional discussion, and if that's what they always try to do, that is a giant problem. And that becomes the time tax. So you as a leader get sucked into this particular conversation, and you are forced to only deal with these lower level issues. You never get to the results. You never get to strategic movement, and you're constantly in this loop. Now, how do you know if you're in the loop? Well, I would argue, so one, you're managing feelings. You're managing feelings, not results. You tend to lose credibility over time when you do this. And the people who do this to you, in my opinion, the easiest way to spot them is they can't get results on their own. So what they do is they have to be your friend. They have to keep you talking emotionally, and they have to have you believe that they're your friend and they're helping you, even though they're sucking you into emotions. So, like I said, the easiest way to spot them is they can't hit a deadline. They can't hit a deadline consistently. And if that's the case, so if you can't look at a person objectively, even if it's your closest friend, and identify they can't hit a deadline. They can't focus on results. It's all emotions. I worked with a gentleman, it was all emotions. That's all he worried about was his image and perception and what everybody else was saying and doing. It had nothing to do with the results. And so this type of thing destroys you. It works for a while, but eventually, I'll say savvy business people will spot you, and they'll realize, like, we're losing money or this is happening. These are people who, again, so they can't make metrics. They frequently can't hold staff. Staff tends to say they're toxic, things like that. So these are the hallmark signs. And I'll say, like, in the Gnostic tradition, they called these types of entities as archons. These are confusers of thought, and they're blockers of truth. They obscure and they confuse you, and that is the nature that they operate in. So if you want to operate as a leader, you have to regain your sovereignty. Okay, so what does that mean? This is some of the stuff from leadership theater. We're going to kind of explain it a little bit differently. if you're leading, you have to lead, not manage emotions. Now, perceptions and emotions are part of it, but it can't be your entire focus. Lead means you should be anchoring in truth over emotion. You should be anchoring in clarity over confusion. And you should not, you should be choosing loyalty to mission over loyalty to drama. And God forbid if you're choosing loyalty to yourself over loyalty to the mission, that's even worse, is what I would say, because that is a hallmark that you as a leader are deeply, you are an archon, and you are one of the people that are an energy vampire, which is difficult to hear. So again, I'll say this loops back to one of the things, when people talk about leadership, one of the core beliefs that I have, and one of my mantras for life is, it's a Miyamoto Musashi phrase, which is, the truth is not what you want it to be. It is what it is, and you must bend to its power or live a lie. So if you are so rooted in emotion, you will be focused on excuses and emotion, and you never hit your results. They always keep escaping you. That's a problem. That's not good. And that wraps up for today. We'll see you next week.